Hello and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host Maverick Drenzaria. This week we're taking a look at the film Escape from L.A.
Call me Snake.
Call me Snake. He said that quite a few times in this one.
But yeah, so Escape from LA. This was released on August 9th, 1996. So, quite a gap.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to learn about how long of a time it was between New York and L.A.
15 years.
Yeah.
And in the movie, it takes place 16
in 2013.
years. It takes place 16 years after the
Oh, wow. Yeah.
first movie.
Yeah.
And it cost $50 million. So, much higher budget than the first one.
But it only made 25.
25.5 million, so it was a box office bomb. Although this has gotten a cult following. So I guess that makes this another cult film we're doing on this podcast.
A very high budget cult film.
I think that might be the biggest gap we've had between first movie and second movie on this podcast, actually.
I think so.
Huh. And apparently this movie was being worked on as far back as 1987.
Oh, wow. That's 9 years.
And originally Dino De Laurentiis was involved, who you might remember helped distribute Evil Dead 2.
The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2, not the first one. But Carpenter thought the resulting script was too campy, which... pot calling the kettle black.
It would have been... seeing a more campy version of this, I think, would have been astounding.
You get the return of, like we mentioned, you get the return of John Carpenter as the director, who also wrote it. Did the music again, although he did collaborate on the music with Shirley Walker.
What else has she done?
Among her other credits include Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, wow.
Another John Carpenter movie, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which we're not doing a podcast on that one. Turbulence.
Oh, wow.
There's a classic. And the first 3 Final Destination movies.
No way. I actually have a collection of all of them on my shelf right now.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it was a multi-pack with all
Those
the Final Destination
so
movies.
Bad.
I know they are.
The second one was okay, though. The second one was probably the most enjoyable one for me. But what's interesting, this movie has a soundtrack which includes a lot of rock and metal bands.
Really?
Such as Tool and White Zombie, which White Zombie, I think their song plays over the end credits.
I was wondering about that a little bit, because that was one thing that I was going to mention, is that song during the credits is so, like, upbeat, hard, and fast, which really contrasts with how the movie actually ends.
Oh my god, yes, we will get to the ending, that's for fucking sure. But really shows you the total dissonance of this whole experience. But yeah, and a little background. By this point in his career, John Carpenter, he was basically fed up with the studio system, the Hollywood studio system. The best guess I can make for why this movie is like this is it's some kind of middle finger to Hollywood.
Kind of like Mulholland Drive, just not pulled off as well.
Yeah, I'd rather be watching Mulholland Drive. But basically this movie is Ron Swanson holding up a permit, which is just a paper that says, I can do what I want. I mean, that's this movie, basically. And what's also interesting about this movie is Kurt Russell helped write it.
Yeah, I noticed that. I did on the credits. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, he had a hand in the screenplay, which I think this is the only screenwriting credit that he has.
I was about to ask, like, I don't think I've ever heard of him writing anything else.
Shows, hey, he was passionate about the project, at least.
Yeah.
So.
There is that.
And speaking of Kurt Russell, he's back as Snake Plissken.
Yep, and we learned that his first name is Bob.
That is right. Yep, Bob Pliskin. And I'm not gonna lie, this has a good cast.
Oh, it's a fantastic cast.
Steve Buscemi is in it, which I mean, we haven't done a podcast with him yet, so
Yeah, that is a little bit surprising. That it's taken us this long to get to the guy.
I'm not gonna lie, he's actually perfectly cast in this movie.
He really is. He fits the part so well, and his character is mapped to the stars, Eddie.
Yeah, he's great at just playing this like really sleazy like character that'll just sell people out, you know. That
And
seems to be
you want to
what
know
he
one of
plays
my
in every
favorite?
movie when you think about
It's
it. I mean, 'cause
true.
Fargo came out the same year, and that's basically him in Fargo. But-
You know what one of my favorite parts is about his character? It's that the fact that he wears like the Jack Nicholson Joker attire throughout the whole film.
he kind of does, yeah, that's right. Because aren't his clothes like purple?
Yeah, it's purple. He's got the hat and kind of like that plaid undershirt.
Yeah, he does kind of. Yeah, he does kind of dress like. Yeah.
Now that would have been a casting choice. Steve Buscemi as the Joker.
I could see that actually. He would look terrifying in the makeup. We also have Stacy Keach. His first
Yep.
time on our podcast. Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. That was one of the few people that I knew was in this.
He has a
Was good
cameo,
old Bruce.
basically.
Yeah.
One person who you wouldn't expect to be in this movie, Peter Fonda.
Yeah. That one was a bit of a surprise.
Yep. Peter Easy Rider Fonda himself is in this. Which Jack Nicholson is in that movie too. But anyway. Pam Grier. The year before she was in your favorite Tarantino movie, Jackie Brown.
Oh my, yeah. All-time favorite Tarantino film is the one that doesn't become a Tarantino film until the last 20 minutes when they learn how to write.
You also got Cliff Robertson, who most people know him as Uncle Ben from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Oh, wow.
Which also
I
had
did
Bruce
not know.
Campbell in it.
That's a good point.
Yep. But yeah. Valeria Golino, who she was in the Hot Shots movies.
Mm.
All two of them. Oh, George Corafaci, he's in this. This is a few years after the disastrous Christopher Columbus movie that he was in. Which he plays Columbus in that movie, but he doesn't even get top billing. Marlon Brando does.
Of course, Brando's gonna get top billing. He got top billing in Superman.
And he isn't the title character in either of those movies. As well as Michelle Forbes, who was in Star Trek The Next Generation. Okay, I guess we can get to our initial thoughts on this one. Now, this was one I was really dreading, actually.
I was interested going into it because I had heard a lot of negative stuff about this movie before.
Including from me, because I mentioned it on the podcast once while doing a movie, which is even worse. So when I first saw this movie, I despised it. I fucking hated it. I really did not like it.
Has time changed any of that?
Watching it again, I still didn't like it, but it's not as bad as I remembered. It's not good though. But basically this movie, it feels like a parody of the first movie.
In spots, it really does.
Made on a really huge budget. Like, there's parts of it I like, and then parts of it which are absolutely terrible. So I'm kind of in the middle on this one. Like, Like there's enough things in it that I like that make me kind of wish I liked it, but then there's just so many just parts where I'm just like, oh my god, why?
So, so for me, I went in expecting just this god awful movie.
Okay.
And I think I agree with you on that part of there are parts that I do really like, and there's parts that I find just incredibly stupid.
Okay.
But the movie goes so over the top and just gets so funny to me in certain places that I actually really enjoyed watching the movie.
Really? Okay.
I did, yeah.
This is gonna make this podcast really interesting. I was wondering like whether you would hate it or whether you would like enjoy it. So this is a surprise.
See, I don't think it's a good movie, but it was fun to watch for the most part.
It's certainly
I would say.
not as good as the first one, that's for sure.
No. The first one is by far the better movie. But this was actually really fun to watch when you have no expectations for it.
Another thing, I guess, that makes this movie not as bad as I remember is now I have a little bit more context with John Carpenter's career. Because there's other movies he made around this same time, which kind of have a similar tone to this, and are also worse than this, you know? Like Vampires, for example. But hell, this movie kind of feels like Ghosts of Mars a little bit now that I think about it. But I do actually like some of the ideas here, but tone-wise, this thing is a fucking mess.
The tone is just all over the place.
And one thing I've noticed with John Carpenter is he's not the best at incorporating humor or social commentary into his movies.
Yeah.
Like, how often is it that you watch a John Carpenter movie and your big takeaway is that it was really funny?
I mean, I got some good laughs out of They Live.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But, like, I mean, you look at, like, Halloween and The Thing. I mean, they're excellent movies, but
they're not funny. They're not known for their humor.
I don't remember finding anything funny in them. Which is fine. That wasn't the intent.
Yeah.
The only times I feel like a John Carpenter movie benefited from having more humor were They Live, which you mentioned, and Big Trouble in Little China. Those are probably two of the only ones where I think the humor kind of works. I also don't like this movie because it's basically a remake of the first one.
Yeah, there's a lot of plot points that feel like they were just copy pasted.
I'll be honest,
this movie.
feels like George Lucas doing the special editions to me. Like, it feels like the changes made were just really pointless. And the CGI, oh my god. The CGI.
It's pretty bad.
It sucks. It's so bad.
I paid $4 on Amazon to rent this movie.
Okay. Was it worth the $4?
No.
No?
I will say, watching it in HD when there's no CGI, the movie looks pretty good. When there's the CGI, though, it is so obvious.
I will say, I think the poster's pretty cool for this movie.
Yeah.
And I actually remember the first time I ever heard this movie was I was scrolling through Netflix back in like middle school, and I saw that poster, and something about it caught my eye. I don't know. I guess it was the fire or
Yeah, I was about to say, since it's all bright orange.
maybe the title. I don't know. And I didn't realize at the time it was a sequel, but
I also love the tagline for this movie.
It just says "Snake is back."
Yep.
Or I think there's another one. Because there's other posters besides that one. Let me see. It's like "Plan Your Escape" or something is another one. But with LA incorporated into the...
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what is this? Is it like the Spanish? Oh, man. I think I might have found the Spanish poster for it. Notice the title change here.
Los Angeles 2013.
Which, speaking of which, what year does this movie take place in?
The far distant future of 2013.
And what's hilarious about that is that Kevin Costner's movie, The Postman, also took place in the future of 2013.
Oh, really?
It looks very different from what they did in this movie, though. Because in that movie, all the water like dried up and like
Wow.
basically the world is
Yeah,
ruled by
that
these-
wouldn't work with the plot to this movie.
the like dystopian world is ruled by these like white supremacists on horseback and Kevin Costner pretends to be a mailman. I'd kind of rather watch The Postman than this. Even though it's like 3 hours long. There's a vanity project if you ever want to see one. He directed and starred in it. Oh, here's another tagline. In 2013, nobody gets out of LA alive until now.
That's kind of a crap tagline. That is such a long tagline.
Not as long as the one for the first one.
Okay, true.
But anyway, okay, we should get into recapping this thing. Okay,
Yeah.
so you start with the opening credits, which look about like what they did in the first one. They're a little bit flashier than in the first one, but you know, the font's the same. The music, they updated the theme from the first one to have it be more of a rock version, and sounds cool, you know. You start with the opening credits and you think, hey, this movie's gonna be awesome.
And so after the opening credits, we get some more exposition about the state of the world.
Yeah.
So
you thought the background for the first movie was ridiculous? Get a load of this.
This one gets so weird. So we flash forward to the year 2000, so a whole 3 years after Escape from New York took place.
Well, the
And
first
this
day
guy-
we saw was like 1998.
Yeah.
Which that's the year after the first one took place. And the narrator says an earthquake will destroy Los Angeles.
And this earthquake happens to be predicted by the upcoming presidential candidate, who says that LA will be destroyed by an earthquake for being such a sinful city.
Yeah, he calls it Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, they're going for they're basically going for the whole televangelist angle, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
and
Cliff
what I
Robertson's
like is
character is basically Pat Robertson or Jerry Falwell. I mean, they're like not even being subtle about it.
And so one thing that I actually really found kind of funny is they were just showing LA. And LA looked completely normal before this earthquake. Like, so they decided that New York needed to become this dystopian hellscape, but LA got to survive unscathed after the 400% rise in crime.
I guess, I don't know. Maybe it was only a 200% rise in crime.
It was low based on the national average.
So August 23rd, 2000, the earthquake happened.
Yep.
And basically this opening feels like a disaster movie.
It kind of does.
Like Earthquake. It feels like Earthquake. Yeah. Which is an actual name of a disaster movie. And Los Angeles gets cut off from the mainland, which... Wait a second. Okay, so an earthquake breaking off part of the United States.
I feel like I've seen this before.
Did Lex Luthor or Max Zorin help write this movie? So, Cliff Robertson takes over as president for life.
Yeah, because they decide that his prediction was so on the nose that he just gets to be president for life.
Gets to be dictator, yeah.
And what he does basically is turn LA into a city where you basically deport everyone, all the undesirables.
It's basically a theocracy.
Yeah.
Being led by
And so-
Jerry Falwell, if he had more power than Julius Caesar. Which there's a
And so-
nightmare scenario if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah. And so he bans things like smoking, alcoholic beverages, red meat, guns, profanity, non-Christian religions, atheism, and non-marital sex.
We would be over there for sure. um,
And so he bans all of this stuff and sends it all into LA. And during this entire intro, I was thinking, this is weirdly topical to nowadays in some ways.
I gotta say, these people should have voted for Donald Pleasance.
That's a good question. Do you think he was up for re-election in the year 2000?
He must have. I guess that whole tape scandal really killed him then.
I know. He killed him so bad that this other guy got elected to president, and they kept him there for life.
And how much does the country have to deteriorate till we get to the point where they're like, oh yeah, let's just dictator for life of America? I mean, Jesus Christ. Okay, so it flash forwards to 2013 and the distant future of 2013. Yeah. And Snake is brought to the LA prison, and he was convicted of 27 moral crimes. Which ones?
I know they specifically mention gunfighting as one of them.
Okay, wait, but going by their rules, smoking, we know he smokes.
Definitely. Probably alcohol. Probably red meat.
He does use profanity. I don't know. Who knows? We'll probably never know. we will never know unless they make another one, I guess. But so Stacy Keach and some other girl, they dust off Snake Plissken, and they one part that made me kind of chuckle in sort of a ha ha way was when they called Snake Plissken retro.
Oh yeah.
They said saying that he looks 20th century. Oh man, yeah. I'm just rolling in the aisles over that one.
Feels like a very 1990s joke to make.
And he says that Snake turned against his country. And you get this classic exchange. What do you have to say, Plissken? Call me Snake.
Call me Snake. Was that his first line in the movie?
I think so, actually, yeah. This is the first line I saw on the podcast, too. There we go. And they don't really give you much choices here on this prison island. Basically, the choices are either deportation or electrocution for confessing your quote-unquote sins.
And okay, here's the thing. It's not just electrocution. It's a very public electric chair that's just out in the middle of a hallway.
That too, yeah.
And it's not just one electric chair. They have like two of them sitting right next to each other as well.
And you're also noticing this one definitely has more of a satirical tone than the first.
Yeah.
Not a very subtle one either. And they explain that the president's daughter, Utopia, nice name, stole a satellite system, which she intends to give to a revolutionary leader named Cuervo Jones, who is dressed in his best Che Guevara cosplay.
I as soon as I saw him, like, Che Guevara, what?
Yep, he looks like Che Guevara. I mean,
it's like a perfect match.
Which I don't know I guess it's revealed later, but this satellite system apparently can destroy technology everywhere.
Yeah, they talk about that a little bit later, but...
Which I have to ask, who the fuck would invent something as insane as that?
Because, the whole thing, at first
for what?
Because at first it seems like it kind of follows GoldenEye rules, where it's, okay, it's like what, one or two satellites that can pinpoint very specific locations. But then they explain if you just type in the code number 666, you can destroy all technology on the entirety of planet Earth.
Fucking God.
It's such a stupid system.
But you are right though that there actually are connections to this and and GoldenEye, you know.
Yeah.
Where's Alec Trevelyan, you know? Or Pierce Brosnan. Where's Pierce Brosnan?
And so basically the president is trying to get Snake set up to go in, retrieve the satellite system, and kill his daughter before anything bad happens.
Yeah, he tells him he'll be pardoned from all his crimes if you'll agree to this mission, and then Snake says, "Sounds familiar."
Yeah. Even Snake acknowledges that this is basically a direct copy of the first movie.
How could the same shit happen to the same guy twice? You know, it's like that, basically. You know, Die Hard 2.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in Snake Plissken's favor, it didn't happen to him 5 times like it did with John McClane.
Now I'm just thinking of like that fake trailer for Die Hard 12 where like the guy in the trailer like says, you know, they say lightning can't strike 12 times. It's just like, but anyway. And I also there was one exchange I liked between Stacy Keach and Snake where Snake like asks what's it do, and then Stacy Keach says top secret, you're on a need to know, and then Snake says evidently I don't need to know, so fuck you, I'm going to Hollywood.
So there's actually something that I would like to point out in the scene where they're going over the equipment that Snake's taking on his mission.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point they show off this mini projector where they're like, you can walk around, you can talk, and people will see you there, but it's just like a hologram essentially. And they mentioned something that caught my ear as an engineer. So they said that this thing is powered. They said by a mini nuke, and that has a battery life of only 8 minutes. So I went and did some math on this, alright? So first of all, I'm assuming that this thing somehow works like a nuclear reactor would. After doing the math, it would require 0.04 milligrams of uranium to power for 8 minutes.
So he basically infected them with radiation poisoning.
Well, no, it's 0.04 milligrams. That is so insanely small. A single cell in the human body weighs more than this.
Okay.
It's such a like stupidly small amount. It's like you could have put in probably like based off the size of that thing, you could have put a few grams of uranium in there and powered that thing for years. Why go with such an astronomically low amount of uranium? Why waste it like this? It doesn't make sense. I have the math written down on my notebook that I did while watching the movie.
I find it funny that you actually decided to do that.
Because I heard that and I was like, hold on.
That's something I never would have even paid it. I never even... Yeah.
Because I heard that and I went, hold on. That would be such a small amount of uranium.
I wonder, what happens when you take this hologram projector and then throw it into the sun? Because the last time you complained about the nuclear physics in a movie was when we were doing
Superman 4. I forget how many was it? Was it 69,000 nukes that he launched into the sun?
It was like 62. I don't remember the number. Are you kidding? It was pretty high though. But anyway, getting back on track. They also gave him a virus.
Yep, so instead of the capsule from the first movie, it's a virus that's going to kill him in, like, what, 10 hours?
Less than 10 hours, yeah. And they'll only give him the antidote if he goes through with it.
Yep.
And he tries attacking them, but they're holograms.
I thought that was a pretty funny scene.
It's so stupidly pointless, though. Like, what?
Yeah.
And he says, you better hope I don't make it back, all of you. And again, this is starting to feel like a remake of the first movie.
Yeah.
During this whole beginning section, I was like, wait a minute. That already happened. Wait, that already happened. That already happened. What? Fuck you, movie. And they give him a stealth outfit. So he's dressed differently in this one than he is in the first one.
Yeah.
Although it's nice to see he still has the snake tattoo from the first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's basically just bedecked in leather for the running
Most of
time
it,
of this movie, yeah. And they tell him to find the black box, which has the satellite codes in it, I guess, and kill the president's daughter. And, okay, I will admit this part was a little funny. He tries shooting them with the gun when he finds out neither of them will be giving him the antidote, but the first rounds are all blanks, apparently.
Blanks. It's like they really planned ahead on that one.
Again, it's so stupidly pointless for them to, like, there's...
Can you imagine if Snake didn't fire the gun at that moment and he just took it with him to LA? And his entire first clip would have been useless?
Yeah. That is true, yeah. And then he gets in a submarine to get to Hollywood, and they tell him to slow down, and Snake says, you slow down, dickhead, I'm the one who's dying. And then we get to, CGI.
Yep.
The CGI in this scene did not age well.
Nope. It just doesn't look good at all.
There's like a shark that pops up near the Universal Studios sign that looks especially goofy. And he ends up at Mulholland Drive. Insert David Lynch reference.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, hey, I've seen that movie.
It's an actual place, though, but
yeah,
it is a movie. Sunset Boulevard is also in this movie, so maybe I'll make a reference to that movie when we get to it.
Real quick, Snake, when he lands on the island, he ends up encountering a surfer right away.
Peter Fonda.
And in classic Escape from New York fashion, he recognizes Snake instantly.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he did escape from New York, so I mean...
Yeah, I was about to say, it makes a bit more sense in this movie because he escaped from New York, and he saved the president along the way. So it makes more sense for people to recognize him, but I saw that, I was like, oh, cool, everyone still knows who Snake is.
And also the rain there is apparently acid rain.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because the future...
Because we gotta make fun of LA even more.
Another thing I was noticing about this movie, it's the 90s.
Yeah.
The music gives it away. And also just like the look of it too, just...
Yeah, it definitely feels much more like a 90s action film.
Which definitely makes me miss the first one. You know?
Yeah.
But anyway. So Snake walks around in LA where it looks like everybody that lives there is a prostitute or a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Just like the real LA. I don't actually know if that's the case, but... And he starts asking them if they've seen Cuervo Jones. And he finds out that they killed his contact and used him for target practice. Such polite individuals.
And one of the people that he ends up running to is Steve Buscemi's character, the Map of the Stars Eddie, who's trying to sell him a remote that has a guided tour of LA.
Yeah. And that radio ad, it plays his voice, and it's also playing the song "I Love L.A." by Randy Newman. Which
Yeah.
I was about to say, if this movie doesn't include that song in it, I will be very pissed. But
Yeah.
they do
And did you
include it.
did you
They do
hear?
include it. You can barely hear it over Steve Buscemi
Yeah.
talking, but they include it.
Did you happen to hear how much he was trying to sell it for?
No, I no.
$50,000.
For a map to the stars. Also, while he's there, he finds a pile of rubble that used to be Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. And Cuervo Jones is there in a car which has baby doll heads attached to the front of it. What?
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, okay, so I guess this guy's the villain.
That I don't even know what to say about that. There's people on motorcycles. Snake gets on one, and there's a chase. He ends up losing his
I thought
gun.
that was a pretty fun car chase.
It was fine. And Cuervo Jones even recognizes Snake, saying that he's a gunfighter.
Of course he does.
Yeah, he's and what's interesting, he calls him a gunfighter that's slowed down. That's an interesting way to phrase it.
Yeah.
I guess they are kind of going for the whole Western feel with this in the first movie. While also just making it a dumb action movie. You also get one of my favorite parts of the movie. You probably know which scene I'm talking about, where they play a little Bangkok Rules. Where Snake, he's surrounded by these guys, they all have guns. He says he's gonna throw a can up in the air, and he says when it hits the ground, they can all fire. He just throws it up in the air, shoots all of them, and then it hits the ground.
That was a pretty good scene. And so Snake ends up escaping and trying to hide in some bushes when he's pestered by this young woman played by
Valeria Golino.
Yep. And he ends up getting pretty annoyed by her, and so he tries to leave the bush, where he sees just a dude standing in robes staring at him. And Snake, not knowing what to do, just stood there and stared right back at him, and then got caught in a net by a second guy in robes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then they get taken to the they get put on stretchers, and then they're in some weird plastic surgery lab.
Yeah, so the whole thing is basically there's just a cult of people that keep getting plastic surgery, and it just deforms them more and more.
And was it just me, or did one of the experiments that went wrong look like Gary Busey? I had to look it up to see if it was actually him, because it was a spitting image of Gary Busey. But it wasn't actually him, apparently.
Well, within this lab, the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills, played by Bruce Campbell, makes an appearance.
Yeah. I will say they did a good job on the makeup, because you can barely recognize him as Bruce Campbell. It's just the voice. The voice is what gives it away.
It was very good, and I actually really liked, even though Bruce was only on screen for like a minute and a half, I did like his performance a lot.
It was a weird scene. He starts examining them. He's like examining whatever her name was. He like touches her boobs.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, they're real."
My God, they're real.
Then he makes a comment on how he
seen...
Snake's one eye.
Yeah, he says, "What a beautiful blue eye. Shame he only has one." I mean, it's pretty brief, but I guess it's fine. It's just it's so jarring though. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. It comes out of nowhere and it leaves just as quick, because Snake like spits a pin into his forehead that kills him.
Yeah, he kills Bruce Campbell pretty quick.
Yeah.
And he also breaks out of his ropes incredibly easily.
Yeah, it's like no problem for him.
And which I was noticing about this movie, there's not that much suspense to any of this.
Not really. It's just there's a problem. Snake fixes it, and they move on.
The whole movie, you just never feel like Snake is in any real danger, which I think is definitely a huge step down from the first one. The first one felt like there were actual stakes, like there's some suspense over who will live, who will die, that. Whereas here, they basically just turned Snake Plissken into Rambo, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, Kurt Russell's performance is fine, though. I will say that. He's probably one of the better parts of the movie, I mean, he's Snake Plissken,
He can't really be that bad if he's Snake Plissken.
He's still playing it straight. I mean, it's just everything around him that's absurd.
Yeah.
And so they escape, and apparently Valeria Golino is part of a jihad.
Yeah, which is why she was ended up deported to L.A.
She asks, "You're Snake Plissken, aren't you?" And he says, "I used to be."
Again, more people knowing who Snake Plissken is.
And I have to ask about it. Okay, so why everybody just seems to know who Snake Plissken is? Like, Christ, what was he doing before and between these movies?
Weirdly enough, the Surgeon General does not recognize Snake Plissken.
He doesn't know that. Yeah,
You'd think a man of that stature would recognize Snake, not just all the random ground people.
Huh. Yeah, that is actually a good point. I don't think he recognized him. Guess he's too captivated by his blue eye.
Blue eye.
And then Valerina Golino, she's basically hitting on Snake, She says her boyfriend left her, and he ignores it and just leaves her behind. Only for her to just follow him into a junkyard. And she's basically talking about how LA is like the only free zone left anywhere.
After which she is promptly killed.
Yeah, like the line she says right before that is, "Once you figure out this place, it's really not so bad." Dead, So it reminds me of this story I heard about. There was this general that got shot, right after saying, they can't hit the broadside of a barn or something like that. I don't know. I wish I could fucking remember, but...
And then I was just about to say, this also reminds me of that one girl from the first movie that Snake meets when he's in New York.
They were kind of going that direction, yeah. Yeah, I guess you do kind of think, oh, she might be a main character, but nope. Dead.
Nope. Revoked.
Which I would have been fine having a movie with Valerina Golino interacting with Kurt Russell. I mean, that would have been more than okay with me, but nope. Nope.
And so Snake ends up running back into Map with the Stars Eddie again.
He says he has connections, and it turns out he's working for Cuervo Jones.
Yep.
Also known as Che Guevara of LA.
And so when they pull up to the building that Eddie's taking them to, he shoots Snake with what he calls the fun gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly kind of liked this scene because it kept flipping back and forth between kind of real life and then what Snake was experiencing. And so the screen went black and white. Eddie's voice was pitched up and kind of echoing as he was talking.
I don't know. I just found it kind of weird.
And I kind of like that.
It was like the scene with Bruce Campbell. I was I found it weird and wasn't sure what to make of it. So. But anyway, and they explain that this is where they explain what the satellite does, which
Yep.
destroys all electronic devices, sending humanity back into the Dark Ages, which once again, I have to ask, who the fuck would make something like this?
This must be the alternate timeline where some Bond villain won instead.
It kept making me think of like which Bond villain, like Blofeld.
I'm not
I
sure.
guess in Diamonds Are Forever, he has that satellite made of diamonds.
Yeah.
And then in Die Another Day, they do a similar thing. And make it more... This movie kind of feels like Die Another Day a little bit, now that I think about it. In like some of the tone. And the CGI in Die Another Day is about as bad as the CGI in this movie.
I don't think I've seen Die Another Day. Is that a Brosnan one?
That was the last one of Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I think I've only seen Goldeneye from
and
Brosnan
it's by
before.
far the worst one he did. There's one scene later which especially reminded me of a scene from that movie, but we'll get to that. But still,
and so
I guess they just stole a satellite that was built by Ted Kaczynski or something. And the president, he considers burning down Los Angeles because okay.
And honestly, when you think about how this movie ends, that probably would have been the safest option.
Yeah, you're kind of right. And we mentioned the world code to bring the satellite to life is
666.
Yep. A reference to the Omen right there.
And then something weird that I noticed. That's what I was about to mention, that like, why did they put Snake on a treadmill?
Like, really the best way they could think to torture him was make him exercise.
And like, he was just like walking at a casual pace too. It wasn't like they turned it on to max and made him run. And basically, as they're done giving their speech, because Che Guevara's lookalike basically goes and gives a talk like, hey, we're going to destroy all electronics in the world. Have fun, Mr. President.
Yeah, he shuts down the Capitol, which is located in Lynchburg, Virginia, because, again, Jerry Falwell is the president.
Yeah. And they just have Snake casually walking in the background. And then once they're done, they just take him off. Like, what was the point?
And he also threatens to shut down the entire United States. But anyway,
yeah.
Oh my god, this next scene. They take him out to a field where a bunch of people are fighting.
I loved this scene, I'm gonna be honest.
And they take him to a basketball rink, which has a firing squad set up outside of it.
Alright, I want to walk you through, because I took notes during this part. So I saw the giant like football stadium, and I was like, oh no. Is this gonna be like some massive gladiator fight? Like, what's gonna happen? And then it panned over, and I saw this guy was playing basketball, and I was like, hold on. Why is there basketball? And then I saw the guy just get shot to death. I was like, oh, it's death basketball. Like, it just kept increasing in just the weirdness of the scene. It was so bizarre.
Which basically what they do is they have like a firing squad set up outside the basketball, rink, and if you miss a goal, you get shot.
If you don't throw the basket, or you don't throw the ball before your 10 seconds are up, then you also get shot.
And then one woman says, "This is insane." Cuervo says, "It is. That's the point."
Now, okay, I'll admit I looked away for a second and missed some context. But when I looked back, there was this giant dude with a leather vest that had like spikes on it that cut a guy's head off with like massive hedge trimmers. What was that about?
I don't even remember that, actually. I must have looked away too at that point.
Because I looked away for a second and I looked back and I'm like, didn't they shoot the guy that was playing basketball?
They did shoot one guy, yeah. Which, that's another thing. They have a firing squad set up around all the corners. of that
Yeah.
basketball rink. They're just all firing. Wouldn't they shoot each other?
They probably would.
God, it's so fucking stupid.
And so we get this.
So I will
Really
say, though,
long-
there's one line from Cuervo, aka Cosplay Che Guevara, where he says, "You may have survived Cleveland, you may have escaped from New York, but this is LA, and you're about to find out, Vato, that this fucking city can kill anybody."
Oh, that was a great line.
I do like that line. I hate everything else about this scene. I fucking hate this scene. It's so stupid. I don't know why it's in this movie. And
So we get this really long scene of Snake just running up and down the court, shooting baskets.
before we get to that,
the
though,
whole
okay,
time.
wait. Backing up. What happened to Snake in Cleveland?
So they briefly mentioned that at like one other part in the movie, but I don't think it's ever explained.
So, like, before Escape from New York, was it Escape from Ohio or something?
That's where he got his nickname Snake.
Something, I guess. He escaped from Ohio. Or survived Ohio, I guess. But yeah, I just... Oh my god, I fucking hate this scene. It's just...
I was laughing so hard watching that one.
I knew it was coming too, because like whenever I think about this movie, there's 3 scenes to it that stick out, and we'll get to the other 2 eventually, and they're so bad. They're like they kind of overshadow the rest of the movie because they're so bad, and I can't stand them.
Oh, they really do. Because I think I know what scenes you're talking about.
Which I will say, I didn't know Snake was this good at basketball.
I was about to say, where did he learn how to play basketball this well? He throws one all the way across the court and makes it in.
Yeah. And he did actually make that shot, too.
That is impressive.
Kurt Russell actually did make, like, all the shots in the movie.
And basically everyone's so stunned by the fact that he won the game that they start chanting his name and he ends up running off.
It's such a dumb scene. And it's only the second dumbest scene in the movie.
You're not wrong.
It's only number 2. Like, we'll get to the other one eventually.
Number 1 is fantastic.
Oh my fucking god.
So I think once I got to this scene, I was laughing so hard. I was like, "Oh, this is the kind of movie we're watching," and I kind of got on board with it.
I really just am. Oh my god. So Cuervo tries shooting him. Then there's an
Barely
earthquake.
misses. Yeah.
You get a great line where Cuervo says, "I'm starting to get irritated," and that's not a good thing. Which reminds me of something Dr. Evil says, when I get angry, Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset, and when Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset, people die. Kind of made me think of that, but better movie, obviously. Came out around the same time, too, 1997, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah, a year after this. So, there's explosions, Snake goes in the sewer... And apparently the girl that was with Cuervo is Utopia, the president's daughter.
And she's decided after that she doesn't want to be part of this anymore.
Yeah. And he ends up sparing her life instead of killing her. For some reason.
Yeah, I guess he can't make himself do it, even though he hasn't really had any other problems killing people before this.
I guess he likes her skimpy outfit, I don't know. But...
And then
and she tries to get him to not take the box back because her dad is a lunatic, and she's got a point.
She really does. And so Steve Buscemi shows up right behind her.
Yeah, and then Eddie, he goes back to Cuervo and says he killed Snake, but he doesn't believe him and says to go back and get Snake's head. And then
this is where we get The dumbest scene.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna be honest, I kind of lost it at this scene.
Snake sees Peter Fonda, the surfer, again. And yeah, it's the dumbest scene in the whole movie.
And Peter Fonda's like, there's a tsunami coming. It'll be the wave of a lifetime. And then he gives Snake a surfboard. And keep in mind, Snake got shot in the leg by Steve Buscemi. And he just mounts this surfboard like it's no problem.
He
starts
also,
riding.
Okay, another thing, Peter Fonda tries explaining to him how to surfboard, and it's like really quick. I don't know how he was able to just teach Snake that quick. I mean, and like you mentioned, he's also badly injured. I don't know.
Yeah. And so Snake starts riding the wave, and then Eddie is driving his car right in the area, and we get the dumbest car chase ever, where Eddie's driving away while being chased by Snake on a surfboard on a giant wave.
It's so bad. I'd also like to point out the CGI on the wave looks terrible.
It's so awful.
It reminded me of the windsurfing scene from Die Another Day. It's that bad. Like the CGI in that movie, like during that scene. Oh my god. It's so fucking bad. Like I just
Oh, it was so stupid.
But you were getting enjoyment out of it. I was
getting a lot of enjoyment. I'm like, what am I watching?
I guess I could kind of see that, yeah. But it's just I already knew what was coming, so there was no novelty factor for it. I was just waiting for just a really stupid scene that I hated to be over, basically. I did write a few notes about it. Okay, so apparently one thing I read is that John Carpenter really likes the Beach Boys.
Oh, really?
So that might explain why this scene is here, actually.
Huh.
You can just hear Surfin' USA playing. They don't play that. I think they're playing Wipeout or something. Or no, wait.
They're playing some surfing song.
I don't know. I just don't like this scene. I just really... fuck. And it also kind of reminded me of this one scene in the 60s Batman show where Batman and the Joker are surfing. But at this point, you're just like, what in the fuck is next after this? Like, does Snake tap dance with Fred Astaire or something? Like, it's so fucking random. At least there isn't any blackface like in Swing Time.
True.
Yeah. So Snake finds Eddie. He now has an hour left. And then we get the other scene that I really fucking hate in this movie. Which was the scene where Pam Grier shows up.
So basically, Snake's like, okay, I need to kill your boss. And Eddie goes, well, you're going to want to check out with his former... I forget what he said. Was it former lover or something like that?
I don't know. But basically, the person is Hershey, played by Pam Grier. And apparently, she's transgender. You know, she got a sex change.
Yep. And she was formerly known as Carjack Malone.
And Snake knew her before Yeah.
And apparently that was the other time they mentioned Cleveland, was when Hershey came in.
And also, one of the guys in this scene, I think, was in Die Hard.
Oh, you might be right. I think I know who you're talking about.
The guy that grabs the candy bar in Die Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this scene is terrible.
It really is. It goes on for really, really long.
It isn't funny. The dialogue is just... oh my god. It's so cringy. But anyway, moving on. You see the Hollywood sign on fire.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Like it looks like all of Hollywood is burning,
I guess
basically.
Neville Sinclair crashed into the Hollywood sign, like in The Rocketeer.
What? Okay, I just checked. It is the same guy in Escape from L.A. and in Die Hard,
Okay, okay.
but he went uncredited in this movie.
And I don't blame him for that.
He was also in Lethal Weapon 4, apparently. Also uncredited.
Which, again, was probably for the best.
He was in the 1998 Godzilla, and guess what?
He was uncredited.
Yep.
Okay, I will say in Escape from LA's favor, I would rather watch it than Lethal Weapon 4 or the 1998 Godzilla movie. I will say that in its favor.
He's uncredited in a lot of stuff. I just did Control F and I found 30 things he's in that he's not credited in.
Okay, but anyway, they fly around on some wing parachutes, which this was just making me wish I was watching Flash Gordon.
And they end up flying towards Disneyland.
You know, this movie could have used a Queen soundtrack, like in Flash Gordon. The music in this movie honestly kind of got on my nerves. It was like really loud, really blaring. It was making me really miss the atmospheric score that the first movie did from the first movie. Yeah. You get an action scene with lots of explosions, which, remember how subdued the original was?
This one isn't. Real quick, there is actually a line that I liked when they're flying into Disney World.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get the exact.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they're like near Disney World too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think Snake makes a comment on it, and Eddie basically goes, "Yeah, that thing's been changing owners. The deal in Paris nearly killed them," which is a reference to when Disneyland opened in Paris, and it was a huge disaster.
Did they mention the time that all the kids got polio in Tomorrowland? So Snake fights Cuervo, who cuts him with a knife, and he gets away in a helicopter.
Yeah.
He shoots Cuervo, but he uses a rocket launcher, which creates an incredibly fake-looking fire in the helicopter.
Not only that, but it's incredibly convenient. So Eddie, Hershey, a few of Hershey's men, Utopia, and Snake all get in this helicopter. Eddie sees the rocket and says nope and jumps out of the helicopter. The rocket hits the helicopter and it only kills Hershey and Hershey's men, just leaving Snake and Utopia left.
What are the odds of that? And he finally gets back to the mainland just as his time runs out. And it turns out they just gave him the flu.
Yep. Yeah, it is. But basically they gave him a fast-acting version of the flu in order to trick him into thinking that they gave him some terrible virus.
They ask him to give them the box, but Jerry Falwell is mad they didn't kill his daughter.
Yep.
And they take her to be electrocuted.
Now, this is a huge tonal shift for the entire movie.
Are you talking about the ending?
Yeah, well, like, starting at this point is where, like, the tone shifts, I feel.
Well, there was... I'm going to mention one part before we get to that, but Snake, he asks Stacy Keach for a smoke, and he says no smoking allowed. He gives a long list of stuff that isn't allowed.
Yeah.
No smoking, no drinking, no drugs, no women, unless, of course, you're married, no guns, no foul language, no red meat. To which Snake responds, land of the free.
Yeah.
I did like that little exchange, but okay, so...
But yeah, I feel like the moment the president announces that he's going to have his daughter electrocuted, that's when it becomes really dark.
It does,
out of nowhere. And you see her getting strapped into the electric chair, too.
Yeah. And he also threatens to use the satellites. But, kind of like in the first one, Snake switched it with a different Yeah, he switched it with Eddie's radio ad. And they try shooting Snake, which doesn't work. And it turns out he's a hologram.
Yep. See, when I saw them raising the fire at him, like as soon as they brought their guns up, I'm like, oh, he's probably gonna be a hologram, isn't he?
And does this seem a little familiar?
A little.
The Last Jedi kind of does this.
Oh my god, you're right. Rian Johnson stole the ending from Escape from LA. How low can you get? And so in the final shot, we see Snake, who's removed from the rest of the group, pull out the remote and type in the code 666.
Yeah, he activates the code to shut down the whole world. Basically sets the
Yep.
world back 500 years, so they'll start all over again. They say, for God's sake. Sorry, fuck me. They say, for God's sake, don't do it, Snake. The name's Pliskin.
Pliskin.
He enters the code. So basically, Snake Plissken is the Unabomber.
Yeah, he just destroyed the entire modern world in one fell swoop.
I take it Snake won't be getting that pardon that they offered him.
I think at this point the pardon's irrelevant.
Okay,
How are you gonna give a pardon?
I'm not gonna lie. I love this ending.
I do too. I just wish that if the rest of the movie was tonally consistent with this ending, that would have blown my mind, I feel.
It's also just the fact I love that Snake is so unbelievably cynical that he not only consider shutting everything down, but actually go through with it.
Does. And then in the final scene, he lights himself a cigarette, looks into the camera and says, or blows out the match, and then the screen goes dark and he says, "Welcome to the human race," and it ends.
And that's the end of the movie.
And it's just like, okay, I really want to see something that happens after this. Because that would be
more interesting than
insane.
This movie. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah. Like, it would be insane, because then it's a whole story of, you have a whole generation of people who grew up on all this technology, and suddenly it's all taken away from them. What happens?
Which you kind of, like, wonder what it'd be like in, like, modern day if somebody tried doing this.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's insanely improbable and would never happen. At least I hope, because fuck. Okay, so, final thoughts on the movie. Okay, like I said, it's not quite as bad as I remembered, but I don't like it either.
And I was just going to quickly say, like I mentioned, it's nowhere near as good as the first movie.
No, definitely not.
The weird tonal shifts are just kind of bizarre, but I did enjoy my time watching the movie.
It's big, dumb, loud. It has good moments and ideas, but the execution is just a mess. Like I mentioned, it basically feels like a dumb remake of the first movie. Because there's like tons of plot points that get recycled and done again, but done worse.
It feels like it doesn't quite know if it wants to be taken seriously or not.
Which, we mentioned Evil Dead 2 kind of remade the first one, but doing it as a parody. But what worked about Evil Dead 2, I think, is it was a less arrogant movie than this one.
Yeah.
And it was more tailored to the director's style. Also, neither of the two Evil Dead movies were very high budget either.
Yeah.
So the expectations, they wouldn't have been quite the same. That being said, there are things I like about this movie, as much as I kind of don't want to admit it.
The ending is super dark, but very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's probably the best part of the movie. Or no, it is the best part of the movie by far. A movie this bad does not deserve an ending that good.
You know how sometimes there's movies where like it's mostly good and then you get to the ending and it ruins it?
This is the opposite. It's like
Yeah.
everything before it is terrible, and then the ending's kind of amazing.
You get to the ending and you're like, I want that movie. Where was it this whole time?
Basically, yeah. But some of the things I like about the movie, Kurt Russell, I think is still great. Snake Plissken. I mean, he still feels like the same character. You know, he's the cynical, misanthropic asshole that was in the first one.
Yeah.
The look of LA is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's something I forgot to mention. I actually think the setting is good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting exploring more like areas of this weird dystopian world.
It's different enough from what the look of the first one was.
Yeah.
While also still feeling, like this, rundown place. I like some of the bizarre characters he meets, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
He was decent. Ballerina Galino, she didn't get much screen time, but, she made an impression. Bruce Campbell's character was weird.
I liked his performance, but I don't think he got enough attention.
He was weird, but he was memorable, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really know if I necessarily liked that part of the movie, but it was something. Hell, I'll admit I even kind of enjoyed Cliff Robertson's take on Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson type televangelists.
Yeah, I feel like the president was a pretty interesting character.
Yeah. He's a good actor. He deserves better material than this. And even Cuervo Jones had his moments, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
We're about to show you this fucking city can kill anybody. That line. Some of the action scenes, they're fine. The ending we mentioned is great, but that being said, the tone, I can't stand the tone of this thing.
It's such a whiplash going from the first movie to this one.
Most of the satirical elements just fell flat for me. It just didn't work. It was going back and forth between just being really overly cynical and being really over the top, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
I especially can't stand the 3 scenes I mentioned, which are the surfing scene, the basketball scene, and the scene with Pam Grier. Those 3. Okay, there was like a quote. I think Howard Hawks said it. He said it was like he said a good movie is 3 good scenes and no bad ones. With this movie, it has 3 terrible scenes and.
The inverse of a great movie is Escape from LA.
I guess, but if I had to pick like the worst 3 scenes in the movie, those are obviously the ones for me But yeah, and those 3 scenes are unfortunately what end up sticking out the most for me with this movie.
Yeah, I'm not gonna forget that surfing scene for a while.
That and the ending.
Yeah.
The ending sticks out in a good way.
Yeah.
The CGI is terrible. I mean, oh my god. Like, even for
the time, it was pretty bad.
I was watching the Mission Impossible, the first Mission Impossible movie recently. And
actually.
That came out the same year as this, and the CGI in that movie is also dated, but it doesn't look anywhere near as bad as in this movie. I'm specifically thinking of that like train action scene at the end.
Yeah.
Like some of the CGI there kind of. It's not as bad as the CGI in that Spawn movie, though. I'll give it that.
Still haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen it?
No.
We're not doing a podcast on it. We're not. No thanks. I'm not sitting through that again. And just the tone and the writing, it's just a mess. Like, It has some entertaining scenes for sure, but it is not a good movie. It's nowhere near as good as the first one. And this kind of became a thing for John Carpenter for his next few movies, actually. It feels like
Really?
he just went, fuck it, and made a few really silly movies. I guess because he knew they couldn't stop him. Because Vampires and Ghosts of Mars kind of have a similar tone to this. And honestly, I was really hoping I'd be able to find like a DVD commentary on this movie
Was there any?
by John Carpenter to get his insights into this, but I couldn't find one. For all I know, this was just some kind of Max Bialystock and Leo Bloom type scheme from the producers where they just made it deliberately terrible so they could make money off of it flopping or something. I mean, but you apparently enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. So the basketball scene and the surfing scene caught me so off guard and just absolutely bewildered me that I couldn't stop laughing at those scenes. And then on top of that, I know we talked about this a little bit, but I actually really liked the kind of motorcycle chase at the beginning. I thought that was a pretty fun action scene overall.
I mean,
And then,
the action
of
scenes,
course,
they weren't bad, but they're just forgettable for me. Like most of them. I couldn't really tell you like what really happened in the action scenes if you put a gun to my head. Like they weren't badly staged or anything. Some of them were a little too over the top, I guess, with the editing and stuff, but they weren't like, I don't know, they just didn't stand out much to me.
I think with that one, that first car chase, the one thing that I remember pretty well is when Jones pulls out like the two balls on the string and like wraps it perfectly around Snake's neck to get him. I just thought that was kind of a cool move as part of that scene, and then it was followed by the one where he almost gets shot by 4 people but then doesn't.
But yeah, I did not like this movie. If it isn't obvious. It is I will admit though, it is a little bit more of a mixed bag than I remember. Because like I mentioned before, when I first saw it, I fucking hated it. But now, rewatching it, it wasn't as painful as I remembered, maybe just because I knew what was coming this time. But I still didn't like it. I will say, though, in terms of Kurt Russell movies, I will take this any day over Stargate. And I assume you would too, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I'd take it over the second half of Stargate.
This is like, okay, yeah. When they basically go through the portal.
Yeah.
I wonder if you took the first half of Stargate and then took, like, some of this movie and tried to combine them. I mean... And maybe part of why I don't think this movie is quite as bad as I remembered is compared to some of the other stuff we've done on this podcast. I mean, you know, you're still there, right? So yeah, for those listening to this, your computer crashed.
Yeah, my computer crashed, and then there was a bit of a family crisis, and so we're coming back a day later and finishing up with the trivia.
I guess Snake setting off that EMP caused your computer to crash or something. Yeah, I guess that means this is the last we'll see of Snake Plissken.
Which really is a shame. He is a very interesting character.
Unless you want to do a Captain Ron podcast. But anyway, but yeah, he is. And even though this movie kind of sucked, you know, that was one of the bright spots in it, was Kurt Russell's performance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we move on to the trivia now, unless you have any more thoughts you want to add?
I don't think so. I think I stated everything that I had about the
Except
film
apparently you liked
yesterday.
it more than I did. You liked it,
Yeah.
and I did not. Although I think I asked at one point, like, because you rented it
Yeah.
$4, and I asked you
I
if
I,
it was
I
worth.
wish I would have just pirated the movie.
I asked you if it was worth the $4, and you said no, which I guess is a negative review. Was it worth the $4? Anyway. So trivia. So Kurt Russell, he was in this movie, and he was in Tango and Cash, which also starred Sylvester Stallone. Now Sylvester Stallone was in Rocky IV, which featured Dolph Lundgren, as Ivan Drago,
Yeah.
and he starred in Masters of the Universe.
There we go. We had to tie it together somehow. Instead of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, it's 6 degrees of Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I was doing that. I was like trying to figure out how many movies is Escape from LA separated from Masters of the Universe. Apparently, it's only separated by 2 movies. And then Steve Buscemi, he was in this movie. And he was also in the movie Nancy, which co-starred John Leguizamo, who was in the Super Mario Brothers movie. So there we go. Only separated by 1 movie, apparently.
That is pretty impressive.
Now, the critical reception of this movie is interesting. It got a split vote from Siskel and Ebert.
I feel like that's a running trend.
Roger Ebert was surprisingly very praising of this movie.
Really?
Which is especially strange to me because he didn't even like the first movie. He said, Escape from LA has such manic energy, such a weird, cockeyed vision that it may work on some moviegoers as satire and on others as the real thing.
I could see that, I suppose.
He also said this is the kind of movie Independence Day could have been if it hadn't played it safe.
Can you imagine if Independence Day was more like this movie?
I would have hated Independence Day then if that were the case.
Instead of Snake playing basketball, we'd get one of the aliens.
Aliens play basketball. And Gene Siskel was not as fond of it. He didn't think the jokes were funny, which I'm definitely agree more of Gene Siskel on this one. What do you want to guess your friend Leonard Maltin gave it?
Okay, Mike, can you hear me? Uh-oh, hold on. Alright, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Fuck.
My computer crashed again.
Okay, what I was saying was, what do you want to guess Leonard Maltin gave it?
Man, I feel like this would actually be one... Okay, I am actually stumped on this. He's either going to give it a 1 or a 3, I think.
What do you want to guess?
I'm going to go with a 3.
Nope. He gave 2 out of 4 stars.
Oh, okay.
So you kind of were in between there.
Yeah.
He said a 1 or a 3. He thought it was a lackluster follow-up, tongue-in-cheek but devoid of wit, and not likely to satisfy action fans either. Well, I actually agree with Leonard Maltin for once. That's crazy. Now, this is interesting. Okay, so apparently John Carpenter himself thought it was better than the first movie.
That is very interesting that he defends this movie so much.
I know, and I have several quotes of him stating this, too. He called it 10 times better. It's got more to it. It's more mature. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. It's got a lot more to it. I think some people didn't like it because they felt it was a remake, not a sequel.
Hmm.
He also said it is a better movie. It didn't do what the first one did for some reason. Maybe it was too dark, too nihilistic. I don't know. They didn't dig it as much as the first one. It did okay, but it just wasn't a hit. And I also saw an interview with Carpenter where he said it was more ambitious than the first movie.
See, I feel like I would agree with him if he made a more tonally consistent movie. Like if it was consistently dark and consistently nihilistic.
Yeah, it's not consistent.
Yeah.
And he also, when he says it's got a lot more to it, I actually think that's the problem because the movie can't decide what it wants to be. There's like
Yeah.
too many ideas, too many like. Because the first one kept things simple and didn't overshoot its targets, whereas this one feels it was just trying to be like it was trying to use the big budget to do like just so many different things, satire that just didn't work.
Yeah.
And it just ends up feeling really overblown, Just a bunch of half-baked ideas, basically.
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
trying to do more things, but it's not succeeding. It's overkill. And this was interesting to find out. Apparently, Kurt Russell came up with and wrote the ending.
That's pretty interesting because I know that he has a writing credit for the movie. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier.
What other parts he wrote? I don't know. But he did come up with the ending, so I'll give him some credit there. I liked the ending.
Yeah, the ending's one of the best parts about the movie.
It is the best part of the movie. It's not even a question. This movie has like 3 terrible scenes and 1 great one.
Yeah.
Well, 2 great ones, because the Bangkok Rules scene, that was pretty cool. And a huge part of why this movie got made was Kurt Russell's enthusiasm for the character of Snake Plissken, because, like I mentioned before, Snake is his favorite character that he played, and Escape from New York is his favorite movie that he did. And John Carpenter said, I used his passion to do the movie to get him to write more. And apparently Carpenter found the movie very fun to make.
I could see it being fun to make.
Yeah. I mean, the basketball scene was probably fun to shoot, but
yeah.
It just looks stupid in the actual movie. In one of his books, Bruce Campbell said about this movie, the things that many folks don't understand is that an actor doesn't always do things for the art. Although he did apparently enjoy working on this film. Kurt Russell also asked Bruce Campbell to say the word workshed because his son was a huge fan of Evil Dead 2. Kurt Russell later appeared in the movie Sky High, which also had Bruce Campbell in it.
Oh, yeah, it did. I forgot Kurt Russell was in it. I remember Bruce Campbell was in that movie.
Another sequel was planned called Escape from Earth.
How? There's no technology.
Which has nothing to do with the animated movie Escape from Planet Earth. And yes, this movie would have taken Snake Plissken to space.
Really, is there anywhere else to go once you run your series long enough?
Exactly. Like Friday the 13th went to space, Leprechaun, Hellraiser,
Alien
James
went
Bond.
to space.
What did you say?
Alien went to space.
That was already in space. Alien went to Earth.
I suppose that's true with Alien versus Predator.
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
What was, James Bond, because Moonraker, but anyway.
Yeah.
But obviously this never materialized. It was rumored that the John Carpenter movie Ghosts of Mars was originally a Snake Plissken movie called Escape from Mars, but this was denied by producer Sandy King.
Okay.
One of the Disney movies that Kurt Russell was in was called The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, which is another entry in the magic computers genre. Because computers can do anything.
Haven't you seen War Games?
War Games, yes. Oh, that's a great movie. Want to play a game of chess? And according to some sources, The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes is the least favorite movie of Jim Carrey.
What?
Apparently, it's his least favorite movie. I don't know why, but says the guy who was in Batman Forever. No, I'm trying to think what was the worst Jim Carrey movie. That Fun with Dick and Jane, that's a worst Jim Carrey movie. Dumb and Dumber 2.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber T.O. Great sequel. Waited 20 years for that one. This is the first and only time Carpenter directed a sequel.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Because he
co-wrote
too.
Yeah, but he didn't direct it.
Cliff Robertson played President John F. Kennedy in PT 109, which was the first movie about a president to be released while they were in office.
Huh.
Although this movie was not about Kennedy as president, it was about his Navy experience. Kurt Russell apparently did a lot of his own stunts in this movie.
Like surfing?
Surfing! Oh, yeah, that wave was very realistic. And this is Kurt Russell's only writing credit. I can see why.
Yeah. I mean, he made a good ending, at least.
Yeah, true. At the beginning of the film, Kurt Russell wears his costume from the original film. Apparently, it's still fit after 15 years. The film is known for having rather poorly produced CGI.
You don't say.
This was due to the fact that the employees at the visual effects house, Buena Vista Visual Effects, had never dealt with computer graphics before and didn't really know how to achieve them properly. Well, no shit.
Probably should have gotten someone at least a little bit more experienced.
Steve Buscemi took the part in this film to help fund his directorial debut, Trees Lounge.
Was that movie worth it?
I've never seen it, actually. It's a great plot description right there. Tommy is an unemployed mechanic who spends most of his time in a bar, Trees Lounge, in a small blue-collar town. He seems to always be thinking, if only X, then I could stop drinking.
It sounds like a fascinating movie.
Steve Buscemi drunk, I mean... It is always interesting, though, when an actor directs a movie themselves, you know? Yeah. Then you're like, is it going to be great, or is it just going to be an ego trip?
Did he also star in it, or did he just direct it?
He starred in it, too.
Oh, wow.
Chloe Sevigny is in that, wow.
Huh.
And Samuel L. Jackson is in it.
Wow, really?
I don't know how big his part is in it, but he's in it apparently.
Huh.
I have no idea if this is any good or not, though. I've never seen it. The movie was filmed almost entirely at night. Production went 70 days without a daylight shoot.
Wow.
I can't really think of any scenes that take place during the day.
I think there was like one scene early on that was kind of in the day.
Sometimes Kurt Russell wore a slightly transparent eye patch to avoid getting headaches.
Yeah, that is one thing Like, it can actually put a lot of strain on your eyes if you just wear an eye patch.
Yeah. He learned his lesson from the first movie there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is interesting. There are several references to Snake Plissken and the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
This is an in-joke reference to a friend of John Carpenter's who knew a guy from Cleveland named Snake Plissken.
What?
This is supposedly where Carpenter got the name for the character when he was writing Escape from New York.
Who names their kid Snake Plissken?
I don't know. Who names their kid John Carpenter? Or Rufus T. Firefly or Dr. Hackenbush. The character of the president was Kurt Russell's idea. He based him on televangelist Pat Robertson.
Yeah, that shows.
And Jerry Falwell. I mean, come on. He looks like Jerry Falwell, and he's from Lynchburg, Virginia. Jerry Falwell had to have been an inspiration as well.
Yeah.
Pat Robertson makes sense though, because Pat Robertson actually ran for president at one point.
Did he really?
Yes.
Actually, speaking of famous people running for president,
The Unabomber.
did you know that Howard Stern said today that he's going to run for president?
I've heard about that, yeah. Oh my god. And Kanye, he was gonna be ran for president.
I remember that.
In 2024, he's probably gonna run again.
Great.
I hope his campaign slogan is something like "Here we Kanye again" or something like that.
It's probably going to be related to Pete Davidson and Kim Kardashian.
Oh my god. But yeah, thankfully Pat Robertson did not actually become president, because that would have been horrifying. I think that this is apparently the fifth, and as of 2020, final collaboration between Kurt Russell and John Carpenter.
What were the other movies?
That Elvis TV movie, Escape from New York, The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay.
So this was the last one.
That is a bit surprising that they stopped, like, in the 90s, considering they're both doing movies still.
Well, John Carpenter isn't making movies anymore.
He's at least writing some, though. Like, I know he's written the new Halloween movies.
Is he? Wait.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, he's not he's not directing anything anymore.
Yeah. His last movie was in 2010, I think?
The Ward. Yeah, The Ward. Which Amber Heard was in.
Oh, really?
Yep. He's still composing.
Okay. Didn't he do the music for Firestarter?
Yeah, the new Firestarter movie. And the new Halloween movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's good for the trivia. Unless you have anything else, yeah. Unless you found anything, I don't know.
So I do have one thing that I'd like to read real quick. So there was a Marvel comic one-shot titled The Adventures of Snake Plissken that released in January of 97. So it came out just a couple months after this movie. And it was supposed to take place in between Escape from New York and Escape from LA.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so here's something else that's interesting. So the basic plot is that Snake has robbed Atlanta's Centers for Disease Control of some engineered metavirus and is looking for buyers in Chicago. Finding himself in a deal that's a setup, he makes his getaway and exacts revenge on the buyer for ratting him out to the United States police force.
So is it in the meantime, Escape from Chicago, I guess?
It basically is Escape from Chicago. While this is all happening, a government lab builds a robot called ATTACS, which stands for Autonomous Tracking and Combat System, that can catch criminals by imprinting their personalities upon its program in order to predict and anticipate a specific criminal's every move. And the first guy they tested out on is Snake. So then this robot ends up adopting Snake's personality and goes rogue because it doesn't trust the government. And so it tries to help out Snake, but then Snake punches the machine and destroys it, saying that he doesn't need the competition.
That's fucking weird.
I would have loved to see that as a movie.
I would have probably liked that more than Escape from LA, actually. At least it's not a remake.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not just a straight up remake of the first one. Oh man.
Alright, yeah, but I think that's all that I have for this particular movie.
Yep. Same here.
So the next time, I suppose we'll cover a movie.
I think it was Con Air was supposed to be the next one.
Yes.
Which also has Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's our connection to that movie. What if it's the same character?
Wonder what connection does it have to Masters of the Universe?
Oh, we'll find something.
Maybe John Cusack is in that. Maybe he was in some movie with Courtney Cox or something. I don't know.
All right, so I guess with that ends this episode.
Yep. Play the Andy Griffith clip.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.